When I was 10 years old, I had cancer. It was rhabdomyosarcoma, so it was a stage 2, stage 3 cancer with a tumor growing in my rib. And that is, I would say, one of the close to death experience. We are content creators and we are also a married couple. We often discuss good financial habits because we believe it's important to plan ahead.
Being millennials, we live and breathe online for work, socials, and entertainment.
For a long time now, we have been curious about what end-of-life planning entails beyond dollars and cents. Surely, our digital lives need a proper handover too.
You've heard the phrase getting my life in order? This is getting our death in order.
Yo, welcome to Finance Over Coffee, where we share with you finance tips and information
Free of charge.
Okay, so Liyana, I have been thinking, since I always do the postings for all our videos and photos,
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you to post the video. Can?
But I don't know what's the password I don't think you got tell me before. If not, maybe I forgot.
Okay, this is, have a look. This is the password to most of our accounts.
Now that I realize, right?
Yeah.
All the accounts is only on your phone.
This is one thing that I feel a lot of people take for granted, especially let's say if you're, for example, building a social media brand, like what we are doing, and with income revenues coming in, like Google AdSense, for example,
Yeah.
brand deals. If we don't have each other's passwords, and if something happens to either one of us, how does the postings, continue to go?
As for you, definitely you will find it more important because you have your medical history.
Yeah. When I was 10 years old, I had cancer. It was rhabdomyosarcoma, so it was a stage 2, stage 3 cancer with a tumor growing in my rib. And that is, I would say, one of the close to death experience.
Yeah. I think a lot of people also who are young and healthy, they tend to not prioritize this because it's not something that goes through your mind.
We've been 2 years married already, and we kind of have to, talk about this.
Yeah.
We decided to speak to a cybersecurity expert first to sort out how to manage our passwords. So we packed our gear to share this unusual end-of-life planning journey. Let's go.
Hey Hema, thank you so much for having us over at the PwC office. We are actually a couple who have been creating content online. So we were wondering, because we have multiple social media accounts, what can we do with our passwords?
Thanks, Liyana. Thanks, Alif, for having me. And I'm really happy that you asked that question. Password managers help you vault and remember the passwords that you have. It will be useful with the growing number of accounts that you have.
So in terms of choosing which password managers we should go for, what are certain things that we have to look for?
Password managers are held by private companies, which means that they can be subjected to cyber attacks as well. It is important to choose from a reputable organization, one that has two-factor authentication. If you're using a password manager, it is important to engage a lawyer or an executor to store the password.
The thing is, we want to make it stress-free for our loved ones upon our demise. What other aspects of these digital trails should we look into?
Having a discussion early on while you are still around is very important. You may choose to want to memorialize the account. Some of the accounts may be closed.
But as much as we housekeep our digital trails, right? We have very old accounts on MSN, Blogspot, sometimes we don't even remember which accounts we sign up for. So will it pose an issue in the future if we don't do anything about it?
Definitely. Data, as long as it's online, it leaves a digital trail. With identity theft, criminals can also impersonate you to take loans under your name.
And that sounds very scary.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter if the person is still alive or not. And especially with a loved one who has demised, you would want their reputation to be upheld and protected. With identity theft, that can be tarnished.
Yeah, so I think that's something that we should prioritize.
Be selective about the data that you put on social media. It's better safe than to be sorry.
Okay.
Social media has become a permanent fixture or even a necessity in our lives today.
For us as content creators, how do we transfer any potential revenue we make if we pass on? We will chat with a lawyer who specializes in digital assets.
Alright, hi Kelvin. So we are digital content creators. We are creating a brand and hope to monetize the brand as well.
Like, let's say if social media becomes our asset in a way, right? Second source of income. If either of us were to go first, how is it going to be passed over to the other person?
In terms of accessing the account itself, I don't see any practical difficulty. But what gets more interesting is this. A social media account is actually not an asset. If I sign up for an account with Google or even a social media provider, I have entered into a service agreement. It's more of a contract you have with this provider.
Let's say if either of us passes on, right? And these accounts are still running because we are getting an income stream. Where does the money go afterwards?
Suppose, for example, you have monies going into an account that are under only one of your names. If something happens to that person, it belongs to the estate of the person who has passed on. You need to go to court, and there are some procedures. You cannot access the monies in the bank account until after all these procedures have been completed.
What is the best tips that you can give to ensure that it is protected?
You probably want to have a think about how much of the business and the branding is tied to your individual personalities. Consider whether you want it to be an individual account or a business account. Because if it is the company that is the account holder, then that might actually solve the problem. Because the company will never pass away. Companies are eternal, unless one day they are wound up or struck off.
Besides social media, we do have a bit of crypto here and there, as well as other digital investments. So can that also be bequeathed on our wills?
Yes, you can will away cryptocurrency, and the same principle applies to your online brokerages. You don't actually have to list all your assets in your will, because your assets will probably change every couple of years, and it doesn't have to be very precise in terms of the value of the assets. It is more to serve as a roadmap for your executor.
This is where we have to consult a lawyer who practices Sharia law.
That's right.
And yeah, thanks a lot for today. It was fun and mind-boggling. Talking to Kelvin about wills made us curious about the process of writing one for ourselves. So we wanted to try it.
But we didn't know where or how to start. So we decided to get some help by using AI tools before we meet a Sharia lawyer.
As millennials, being very itchy hands and very creative, right? So we did mess around with ChatGPT, Copilot, and Gemini as well.
So let's have a look. Oh wow.
So this is the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the first wheel. I think it's Alif's one.
This is clearly an AI generated will. There may be certain wording that is lacking inside how typically a lawyer would write a will. Look also at the appointment of the executor. One thing that's lacking is the IC number, because that will essentially identify this is the correct and accurate person.
I see. I can honestly tell you, when I was doing that will, I was like, wow, this is not bad. Like, this works.
While I'm not saying that the wordings are invalid per se, I'm just saying that it is not written in that legal fashion.
I see.
That the courts identify it to be valid, and this would be clear enough to ascertain the testator's true intention. Testator is the person who is writing the will, essentially.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so back then when I was 10 years old, I had cancer.
I see.
And I don't want to take my life for granted.
For sure.
Yeah, so this also brings us to a conversation where we talk about whether it's too early or too late to even write a will. Yeah.
I always tell my client, death is certain, when we go is uncertain. So there is no right time. A lot of people sometimes tell me, there's nothing for me to will out because I don't have much. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Even the most minimal asset that you have still goes to someone, you see. And that person can still make good of it,
Okay.
In the future when we have kids and we want to include them into our will, how do we specify that?
Write a new fresh will to include the children now.
Okay.
Because before having children, the distribution would have been different as well.
We're writing this for our loved ones, right? And one of the things we want to make sure is to maybe leave behind something that is personalized to us.
Like a message?
Yeah, like a message and things like that. Can that be included
Yes,
in the will?
for sure. You can attach it within the will to remind the children to always make sure that, you know, silaturahim is kept, that they don't fight. And again, I do not know if AI generated wills or even words of endearment that is AI generated will capture the essence of that personalized touch.
It's so different when you have a human touch where you have the emotional factor, because these are just all assets on its own.
Yeah, hope to see you soon when it comes to the time where we want to do up our will.
Inshallah, I look forward. Thank you.
You know, I feel like I learned a lot about our digital assets and how to manage them.
It was definitely a lot of information. Let's do a quick recap.
What is digital inheritance?
Digital inheritance refers to the transfer of digital assets to one's beneficiaries after a person has died.
Digital assets could take the form of online investments and even NFTs and cryptocurrency, but these need to be on regulated platforms to be willed. However, social media accounts are not digital assets. They are contracts that you sign with these companies to use their services.
Many digital assets are guarded by passwords. These should be well crafted and stored securely in the vault to ensure your executor can access them.
You may want to think of digital inheritance as not just a list of assets to be left behind, but also as a final message for your loved ones. This means you can choose to leave personalized messages or instructions in your will. Just like that, it has already been quite a journey for the two of us. From not knowing anything about planning for digital assets to knowing quite a bit when it came to our AI generated will, because it's a Muslim will, right? So it showed how you want people to
Treat your body.
treat your body. When I read those words, it made me feel like, yeah, this is real.
It's not an open conversation to people around our age. So I think it brings the importance of also talking about it. Since we create a lot of content, right?
Yeah.
Then can you imagine like if we're no longer around and then we shut down the account, right? Then our kids may never see that side of us, or like never know who we are outside of just being parents. If we keep the videos up for them, they can look back at our old videos lah.
It's actually a nice way of
Preserving memories.
preserving
in a sense.
memories.
So throwing it back to the first question that actually started this whole
Of
journey,
this
right?
very whole episode, whether you know the password to our accounts.
account. No.
One thing that we can look at is having a shared Google Sheets. So at least it's more convenient for both of us to access.
Seems like a good idea also. I think having this can make sure that I remember the password for our
Yes.
accounts, right? Yeah. Good.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's enough talking for today.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.